going on YouTube? Heretic here, back after, I know it's been a little over a week since I posted a video, so we're going to dive right into this now. Got some deck profiles heading into, heading into cities. And so one of the decks that I've been testing is Night March. And funny story about how this deck came to be, before I lay the cards down for you, is that I actually thought that Night March was initially going to be just shit, you know, like at best a tier 3 fun deck, and that's if it was at the top of its game. And so I built it online because I had all the cards and on TCG. And I won my first couple games, and I was like, holy shit. So I kept playing this thing, and it took me, I decided I'd play until I lost. And it took me till the 6th game I played against an Evil Tall deck that ran the Lysander's Trump card, which of course does this deck in. If, you know, I mean, it can technically come back against it, but let's just say that's why I lost. This actually has not been a bad list. I mean, as with any deck, there's going to be some rough matchups, but really fun deck to play, and you can make a lot of people really not want to play against it. I know that's happened. But anyway, if you want to troll somebody or just have a cheap deck list, this would be a pretty solid example. So 4 Joltics, of course. Your main attacker is likely to depend on what matchup you're playing. Joltik, you know, is obviously at 30 HP, he's going to get one-shotted by pretty much anything. But being able to swing for a double colorless without any sort of assistance, shall we say, pretty good for what the deck's main attack can do. Night March, which does 20 times the number of Pokemon with the Night March attack that are in your discard pile. So we also play 4 Pumpkaboo. He has the same attack, but he needs an additional colorless, so it's 3 colorless energy for his attack. For his Night March, same damage output. And then we have 4 Lampent, and he actually, for some reason, has the worst attack cost of the 3. He needs a Psychic and 2 colorless, but that doesn't really matter because we can't get him onto the field. So his attack cost is moot. He's going to sit in the discard pile and power up the other ones. And then, to give us a couple extra Night Marchers, we played 2 copies of Mew EX. I have these full art Mews from Dragon's Exalted, so I figured I might as well make some use out of them. So yeah, got those, and then our side Pokemon, we've got a Mr. Mime, because with 30 HP and even with 60 here, like these hit points numbers, these HP numbers are very low. And stuff like Landorus EX or even a Plasma Kyurem could present a bit of a problem here. So I feel like just being able to protect from that against that is really important for this deck. Originally I ran a 1 Mewtwo EX instead of this. It still runs pretty well. I just don't really like taking that risk right now. Obviously if Landorus and Kyurem were to see virtually no play, then yeah, I think the Mewtwo would be a fine fit. And then the final Pokemon is Jirachi EX, because you can't really play the deck without it, in my personal opinion. I think this card is becoming pretty much a one of every deck. So that's the Pokemon lineup. 12 Night Marchers. And technically 14 if you want to count the Mews. There we go, 16 Pokemon total, 12 basics. Then we got supporters, 4 Professor Sycamores, 4 Ns, 4 Shaunas, because oftentimes we're not going to bench load and stuff's going to get knocked out very quickly, which is why we run Shauna instead of Colress. 4 Shauna might seem very excessive, but you really do not want to miss draw supporters unless you can afford to, which means you're probably playing this last card, and that's Lysander. Again, also why we run the Jirachi. Consistency-based supporters here, no Skylas or anything like that, just a lot of draw power because I'm opting against running stuff like Bicycle and Roller Skates, and then of course Lysander because there are certain matchups like Donphan where you are going to need it because Robo Substitute literally fucks you up the ass with this if you're trying to play this. I had I played against the Dawn Fan deck online that ran 4 Robo Substitutes, and needless to say, I didn't win that one. That was after the initial 6 games, but still, something you have to take into consideration here. Also struggles with Gengar because Gengar's Dark Corridor one-shots Mew, and of course everything else is going to get one-shotted. This guy while he's on the bench, so Lysander, again, just a very important card, I think, to have in the deck. That said, I can't justify finding space for more than 2 of them. 3 Dimension Valleys, really wish I had room for 4 of these. This enables Pumpkaboo to swing for a double colorless, the same cost that Joltik, and it also allows Mew to swing for either a double colorless off Pumpkaboo's attack or off of 1 basic energy on Joltik's by copying Joltik's Night March, which is really good, and I honestly wasn't sure if this ruling was going to come to pass, but that is absolutely incredible. Really makes the deck run a lot more smoothly. Definitely a solid card, also works as a counter stadium, but really you want this thing in play when you attack. It's very important to the deck, I feel like. So 3 Dimension Valleys. And onto the items. 4 Battle Compressors. This is pretty much standard. I feel like you play a deck like this, it's fueling off the discard, you're running 4 of these things. This card is ridiculously overpowered in certain decks, this being obviously one of them. The ability to just dump 3 Night Marchers, turn 1, drop 3 Lampents into the discard pile. I mean, you really have no use for them. And I feel like adding the Litwicks and stuff just makes it more clustery and less consistent, so really just kind of running it is about as basic as you can here. 3 Ultra Ball can also discard Night Marchers out of your hand if you draw them, excess ones that you're not going to be putting on the board, and can help you thin through the deck. Obviously it's much slower than Battle Compressor, but can also help you search out like a Jirachi that you might need early game, or anytime really. Mr. Mime against Snipe decks, or a Mew that you know, pretty much anything that you might need on your board. Again, Joltik and Pumpkaboo can play the weakness game with a lot of popular Pokemon like Mewtwo and Yveltal, so being able to pick the one you want, I mean, just like any other deck. 3 switches. I opted against Escape Rope because, like I said, this is a very basic skeleton. Obviously, you can run a cut between Switch and Escape Rope, or you could go all Escape Ropes if you want. I like being able to hit things for weakness. If you're going against the Virizion Genesect meta, you probably do want to run at least 1 Escape Rope instead of a Switch, because that can kind of mess them up when they lead their Virizion. But, you know, I think, you know, Switch, Escape Rope, whatever, just 3 copies seems good. Pumpkaboo has a double retreat cost, which can be kind of a pain sometimes, and everything's pretty much single energy attached, so you won't just want to be able to attach and attack for the most part. 2 Versus Seekers. We play 14 supporters, and, you know, obviously I feel like we're not really going to need more than that because of this, and we also have Jirachi to search out, but I feel like 2 Versus Seekers is pretty much a magic number for most decks. That's kind of what I'm learning with my playtesting and all. So, I mean, really just seeming very easy to work with, you know. Also, I feel like, you know, when I first learned that this card was coming back, I thought we'd be able to cut a lot of supporters like Lysander and stuff down to 1 copy per deck. I'm learning more than now that that's really not a good idea. We also play the inept 3rd Versus Seeker, which is the much more versatile Dowsing Machine. That's our A spec. Pitch 2 cards, grab any trainer back. You can get Valley, which in a Stadium War match you're probably going to need. You're going to want to make sure it can afford you to discard 1 early and not be crippling. Early game, if you draw Dowsing early, you could use a Battle Compressor twice. That's pretty effective. Otherwise, yeah, just pretty much whatever you might need. We also play 1 Professor's Letter because we do play Basic Energy along with our double colorless, and because Aegislash EX and the 4 of rule with special energies dictate that we must. And then we play 4 Muscle Bands because dealing attack damage is good, and because we use Mew, I like consistency over running Silver Bangle in this case. And then finally our energy, 4 double colorless energy, obviously. And I got a little creative with the basic energies because I mean, you can look at Joltik and Pumpkaboo, and even in this case, actually, with the Valley, you can look at Mr. Mime's attack and say like, well, hey, we can actually use this. So you can think like all psychic, all lightning, basic energies. I got a little more creative. I do run one of each, but because we run off of Mew and its ability to also lower attack costs with Dimension Valley, some of the more popular archetypes in the game, you know, it's like trying to use your opponent's attacks against them. We run one fighting, one darkness, and one fairy. Fighting, obviously, Landorus, Donphan, you know, etc. Like, if you can't get a Night March for whatever reason, being able to spin out, to do a Hammerhead, a 30-30, to copy Hawlucha's attack. Of course, Lightning also, you know, in addition to Joltik, being able to use this and copy, say, like a Mega Manectric. The Psychic pretty much plays into what we have in this deck. And then Darkness being able to copy something like Evil Ball, again with the Dimension Valley, you know, just being able to hit for Evil Ball with just that one energy against an Yveltal variant could seem quite powerful. And then, of course, any other energy you may have. Another one, and you could Y-Cyclone, just kind of theorying here. The Fairy energy, not so much used for attacking as much as it is in a Stadium War, kind of against Aromatisse decks. There's that odd situation where they may play the Fairy Garden and you don't have the counter Stadium, which I shouldn't say odd because that's very realistically possible, and just being able to take advantage of their Fairy Garden and free retreat something, you know. None of these are really like major components of like, oh my god, this is huge, I have to do this, but it's just kind of something I did. Metal Energy is the one I left out against the Kabalion, Dialga, Aegislash, etc. decks with Bronzong, being able to copy mainly Righteous Edge and also potentially Dialga's Corona Wind. Having that one Metal Energy, which I used to run, had to find room for a couple other things though, but overall this list is pretty consistent from what I've been testing. Just Call Me Charles played around against it, said Night March sucks, afterwards said Night March is okay, wouldn't admit that it was good, but he said he didn't want to play a whole match, so. But in any case, this is a really fun deck to play, like I said. Just don't be too disappointed if your friends don't want to play against it, because it's a little frustrating to be on the other side of if you can't find a way to beat it. And really, how good of a play this is at Cities, I feel like is going to come down to how many people are running Lysander's Trump card, which probably boils back to the old question of how many Virizion Genesect decks are we going to see. But, I mean, that's about all I got for you guys right now regarding this deck. I'll be back with at least one more profile, if not two, here pretty soon. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and questions and comments below as always. Cheers!